Did you ever think what it would be like traveling along in an open car without a windshield? Boy, you wouldn't go very far before you got all splattered with mud. And you'd have to keep your eyes closed so as not to be blinded by the dust. Well, when you're traveling along in life, Rangers, common sense acts as a pretty important windshield. It lets you see where you're going.
I am the greatest.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Road to Reparations. My name is Umoya.
Good morning, everybody. It is Kim with Evening the Mass Media Group.
Yes, and good morning and welcome, everyone. It is Darlene within the Mass Media Group. Thank you for all attending, who's going to watch this and who will watch it later.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for joining. This is the part 3, maybe more coming up, of the Road to Reparations show, the California CLBC bills, California Legislative Black Caucus.
Yes, this is our reparations priority package.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you wanted to do any, housekeeping today, but I guess we are. All right. So go to reparationsnowdoc.com. That's reparationsnowdoc.com for all access and behind the scenes.
Reparations Now, the documentary, also streaming on Tubi TV.
And check us out at etnmediagroupstore.com. That's etnmediagroupstore.com for more merch and a lot of other stuff.
And don't forget to hit the ETM Amazon affiliate link before you do all your Amazon shopping. An easy way to support ETM doing what it is that you do anyway.
2024 Reparations Manifestation Planner is available now on Amazon.com.
All right. And Miss Darlene, if you could remind us how we're going to get to our reparations out here in California.
Yes, I'll be glad to. And the way that's going to happen, that we need 41 assembly members, 21 senators, and 1 governor to sign the bills, and that will equal California reparations.
And we also want everybody to be aware of legislation SB 490, which would establish a CAFA office. That's the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency. This legislation is not included in the CLBC 14 bill reparations priority package, but it is certainly a priority to us here at ETM Media, and a priority for getting the infrastructure in place to make reparations a reality. Okay, I think we're ready to get started.
All right, so it looks like first up we have ACA 8. And I believe that is you, Miss Kim.
All right.
All right, let's let me
You've
know if
got
you
the
can see the screen.
controls. I can see it.
All
All
right.
right, so ACA 8, Assembly Amendment, constitutional. This is in the California Legislature 2023-2024 regular session. So we have seen this bill before, introduced by Assemblymember Weber, and we have several co-authors, including,
Weber is Wilson.
oh, did I say Weber?
Yes.
I meant member Wilson, Lori Wilson. Thank you for that, Darlene. And several co-authors, including Assemblymember Bonta, who is also in the CBC, and Weber's in there as well, Smallwood Cuevas, Senator Bradford, McCarty, McKenna. Yeah, so we have a pretty good Gibson. Those are all the CLBC members I recognize.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if they were originally signed on previously, but I don't know if more co-authors got added on, but that's good though.
All right, so let's see. ACA 8, a resolution to propose to the people of the state of California an amendment to the Constitution of the state by amending Section 6. You scrolling faster than I'm reading. By amending Section 6 of Article I, therefore relating to slavery. Legislative Council Digest. ACA 8 is introduced. Wilson, slavery. The California Constitution prohibits slavery and prohibits involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. This measure would instead prohibit slavery in any form, including forced labor, compelled by the use of threat or physical or legal coercion. Vote 2-3, appropriations no, fiscal committee yes, local program no. Resolved by the Assembly, the Senate concurring that the legislature of the state of California and its 2023-2024 regular session commencing on the 5th day of December 2022, 2/3 of the membership of each house concurring hereby proposes to the people of the state of California that the Constitution of the state be amended as follows. That Section 6 of Article I, therefore, is amended to read Section 6A. Slavery in any form is prohibited. And then we have a redacted section. Involuntary servitude is prohibited except to punish crime, which has been crossed out. And now it reads, as used in this section, slavery includes forced labor compelled by the use of threat or physical or legal coercion. And that's it on that. Short and to the point.
Yes. No, can we go back to that one for a minute? When you asked a question, Umoya, that you was not sure that these other co-authors signed on. How is that? How do they become a co-author? They're not actually adding to the text, but they're just adding their name in support. Is that what that means? Because it's obvious they didn't add anything to the text.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they got added, I don't know when they got added. Because sometimes we go into these bills and we see others are added on. So I mean that's a good question. I mean I don't know.
Okay. Because I don't remember Senator Bradford initially when it was ACA 3. I don't remember seeing his name. I just don't. Or Todd or Senator Todd.
Yeah,
and of course, Smallwood Cuevas. I mean, she just a year or two now, so she definitely wasn't there.
Yeah, and I think that was what ACA 3 was it?
Yeah,
that was the other previous bill, right?
Yes.
All right.
All right, and as we know, a constitutional amendment will require a vote by the public. So it would be on the ballot in November, I believe, if this goes through.
Yep, so be on the lookout for that one. All right, AB 1986, Prisons Banned Books. Assembly Bill number 1986. Just make sure that my mic is on. Introduced by Assembly Member Bryan, January 30th, 2024, an act to add section 6150 to the Penal Code relating to prisons. AB 1986 has introduced Bryan State Prisons Banned Books. Existing law grants a person sentenced to imprisonment the right to purchase, receive, and read any and all newspapers, periodicals, and books as specified, subject to restrictions reasonably related to legitimate penological interests. Existing law authorizes the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to prescribe and amend rules and regulations for the administration of state prisons, including determining which materials are a threat to legitimate penological interests. Existing law creates the Office of the Inspector General and grants the Inspector General responsibility for oversight of the department as specified. This bill would require the Inspector General to post the list of materials that have been banned by the department on the office's internet website. The bill would authorize the Inspector General to review materials to determine whether there is a legitimate penological interest for being on the banned material list, and if not, would authorize the Inspector General to require the department to remove that material from the department's banned materials list. Vote majority. Appropriations no. Fiscal Committee yes. Local program no. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1, Section 6150 is added to the Penal Code to read 6150A1. The Office of the Inspector General shall post the list of banned materials maintained by the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation on its internet website. 2. The list shall include, but not limited to, all of the following information about the banned material: the title, the author, the publisher, the year of publication, the state legitimate penological interest for banning the material. B1, the Inspector General may review material on the banned materials list to determine if the reason for the banning the material is reasonably related to a legitimate penological interest. 2, if the Inspector General determines that there is not sufficient justification for banning the material, the Inspector General may require that the department remove the material from the list of banned books. For purposes of this section, quote, material, end quote, means any newspaper, periodical, magazine, or book that can be mailed through the United States Postal Service.
It reminds me, although this is not truly reparations bill, but it certainly reminds me of Florida and them banning of CRT and the banning of Black History, now they want to tell us what to read.
Yeah, once again, this isn't lineage-based specific, bill, so. But,
they've had a lot of those prison attorneys. Maybe that's what they're trying to avoid, fight for their own cases,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So does this bill actually put banned books back into the circulation, or does it just create a depository for us to know which books are banned?
Well, that's what it looks like, a depository. Well, it didn't say return. It did say, if it affects the penological interest, whatever that may be. It looks like a depository. And when you were reading the list, Moria, about, Arthur Todd, it reminds me, back in the day when you were in school and you had to do a book report and you had to have all that information, and, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, so it seems like this needs to go a step further, and let people request the books that are on the depository if they, want to read them.
And that can include the California Reparations final report, task force final report as well.
Mm-hmm. And then they're putting it in the hands of the Inspector General. They get to determine what's banned or not banned.
Yeah, how do you determine that, right?
How do you determine?
Alrighty.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and then once again, maybe, of course, this doesn't have anything to do with lineage-based reparations, but
Mhm.
I mean, maybe once a Freedmen's Agency is set up, maybe something can be routed to the Freedmen's Agency. Maybe they can have some kind of oversight committee with
Mm-hmm.
Inspector General. I mean, I don't know. I mean, something has to
Mm-hmm.
happen. I mean, I don't even know what these people are doing. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
let's go to the next one, shall we? All right. Is this you, Darlene? Are you
Yes, it
206?
is.
All
It
right, man.
is. Okay, we have California Legislature 2023 to 2024 regular session, and this is Assembly Bill number 2064, introduced by Assembly Member Joan Sawyer, February 1st, 2024, an act relating to state government. Legislative Council Digest. AB 2064 as introduced Joan Sawyer, Racial Equity Violence Prevention. Existing law established until January 1, 2030, the Racial Equity Commission within the Office of Planning and Research and requires the Commission to develop resources, best practices, and tools for advancing racial equity by, among other things, developing a statewide racial equity framework that includes methodologies and tools that can be employed to advance racial equity and address structural racism in California. This bill would make related findings and declarations. The bill would declare the intent of the legislature to subsequently amend this bill to include provisions that would establish and fund a grant program to support community driven solutions to decrease community violence at the family, school, and neighborhood levels in the African American communities. Vote majority, appropriation no, fiscal committee no, local program no. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1A, the legislature finds and declares all of the following. 1. According to the final report released by the California Task Force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans, quote, the California Reparation Report, end quote, racial terror and lynching in particular pervaded every lynchings in particular pervaded every aspect of pre and post enslavement African American life, and the threat and legacy of terror continue to haunt African American communities. 2. The racial terror inflicted on the African American community has influenced the use of violence within the community, and as a result, African Americans experience violence at the family, school, and community levels, although rates of violent crimes have declined significantly. African Americans continues and are disproportionately affected by it. 3. Limited resources and concentrated disadvantage influence the rate of violence within a neighborhood. Concentrated disadvantage is a sociological term used to describe neighborhoods or communities with high percentages of residents who are poor and lacking in critical resources, including but not limited to access to quality health care and education. 4. Investing in programs that increase inclusion and belonging within the community, support education, help residents acquire skills, and increase access to jobs can reduce violent crime within neighborhoods. 5. The California Reparations Report recommends that the legislature establish a grant program to address violence in African American communities and in communities where there is a significant African American population and prioritize funding for youth empowerment, mental health support services, rehabilitation of structures and public spaces, and other programs for violence prevention and early intervention. B. It is the intent of the legislature to subsequently amend the measure to include provisions that would establish and fund a grant program to support community-driven solutions to decrease community violence at the family, school, and neighborhood levels in African American communities. Mm. Any comments?
I don't
And then I
know.
guess we
No,
would
no.
need to know that who
Radio
these
silence.
funds are going to be distributed to. I guess it sounds like maybe CBOs. I don't know.
Well, and then it says fiscal committee is not even in the fiscal committee, so they have no there. And every time there's a grant program, there's an issue. Who gets the money? What you
Right.
have to said communities have to apply for the grants, and then we need to know who those communities-based organizations are. Are they actually Black descended, which he does not say. He just says African Americans.
Communities, and where are those
Communities.
at?
Where are those today?
They don't even exist.
Not really.
Yeah, there's, I think in section 3 and on the screen here, quote, concentrated disadvantage, end quote, is a sociological term used to describe neighborhoods or communities with high percentages of residents who are poor and lacking in critical resources, including, but not limited to, access to quality health care and education. Well,
who is that?
Yeah, Black Americans or descendants, lineage, we live everywhere here in California.
Mhm,
So like
Mhm.
sometimes we might let's just keep it real. Sometimes we live in the hood. Some of us, maybe not a lot, but some of us actually live in, pretty quote unquote nice areas. So once
I mean, in
again,
my
what is
area
this?
here in Fairfield, it's not poor, and it's certainly not rich by no means. It's not even really middle class, but it is definitely, there's Black people in Fairfield. Trust me, there are. But in my particular section, it's Hispanic. I live in a 60-unit complex, and there's only 4 Black descendants and 1 African family.
Well, there you go.
Mm.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. If nobody else has anything else to say, this is AB number 1975, and I think this is me. Yes. Yep, it is me. All right, so this has,
Didn't you just
I
go?
think, about 6-7 pages.
Oh no, that was Darlene.
That was Darlene. Yeah, I think. Yeah, Darlene, you just went, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, cool.
All right, it's all you.
I just had to clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Anyway, had to do a throwback for those who don't know about that song. All right, AB 1975 Medi-Cal, Medically Supportive Food and Nutrition Interventions, Assembly Bill number 1975, introduced by Assembly Member Bonta, co-authors, Assembly Members Arabula, Byron, Gibson, Holden, Jackson, Jones Sawyer, McCarty, McKenna, Weber, and Wilson, co-authors, Senators Bradford and Smallwood Cuevas. January 30th, 2024. Legislative Council Digest as AB 1975 has introduced Bonta Medi-Cal, Medically Supported Food and Nutrition Interventions. Existing law establishes the Medi-Cal program, which is administered by the State Department of Healthcare Services, and under which qualified low-income individuals receive healthcare services. The Medi-Cal program is in part governed and funded by federal Medicaid program provisions. If I'm correct, Medi-Cal is the California-sponsored healthcare program, and Medicaid is the federal program. Existing law requires the department to establish the Medically Tailored Meals Pilot Program and the Short-Term Medically Tailored Meals Intervention Services Program to operate in specified counties and during limited periods for the purpose of providing medically tailored meal intervention services to eligible Medi-Cal beneficiaries with certain health conditions, including congestive heart failure, cancer, diabetes, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or renal disease. Existing law, subject to implementation of the California Advancing and Innovating Medi-Cal AIM initiative, authorizes a Medi-Cal managed care plan to elect to cover community supports approved by the department as cost-effective and medically appropriate in a comprehensive risk contract that are in lieu of applicable Medi-Cal state plan services. Under existing law, community supports that the department is authorized to approve include, among other things, medically supportive food and nutrition services, including medically tailored meals. This bill would make medically supportive food and nutrition interventions as defined a covered benefit under the Medi-Cal program through both the fee for service and managed care delivery systems effective July 1st, 2026. Subject to federal approval and the issuance of final guidance by the department, the bill would require those interventions to be covered if determined to be medically necessary by a healthcare provider or healthcare plan as specified. The bill would require the provision of interventions for 12 weeks or longer if deemed medically necessary. The bill would require a Medi-Cal managed care plan to offer at least 3 of 6 listed interventions with certain conditions for a 7th intervention. The bill would require the department to define the qualified Medi-Cal conditions for purposes of the covered interventions. The bill would require a healthcare provider, to the extent possible, to match the acuity of a patient's condition to the intensity and duration of the covered intervention, and to include culturally appropriate foods. The bill would require the department to establish a medically supportive food and nutrition benefit stakeholder group with a specified composition to advise the department on certain related items. The bill would require the work group to issue final guidance on or before July 1st, 2026. Vote majority. Appropriations, no. Fiscal committee, yes. Local program, no. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1, the legislature finds and declares all the following. A, too many Californians, particularly Californians of color, are living with largely preventable chronic conditions. Adequate food and nutrition are a fundamental part of preventing and treating many health conditions and can significantly improve a person's quality of life and health status while also reducing health care costs. B, California has recognized the critical role of nutrition and its influence on health outcomes and health equity through its inclusion of medically supported food and nutrition interventions in the California Advancing and Innovating Medical Act CAL-AIM initiative. However, these services are optional, with individual managed care plans voluntarily opting in to provide them, leaving many Medi-Cal beneficiaries without access to these critical interventions. C, medically supported food and nutrition interventions have the potential to transform our disease care system to a true healthcare delivery system by fully embracing food and nutritional support as a critical and strategic investment in health outcomes and healthy equity. California can lead the nation in tackling root causes of health disparities and become the healthiest state in the nation. Section 2, Section 14134 is added to the Welfare and Institutions Code to read 14134. For purposes of the section through Section 14134, period 1-2, the following definitions apply. A, quote, medically supported food and nutrition intervention, end quote, means any of the 7 interventions listed in paragraphs 1 through 7 of subdivision B that provide nutrient-rich whole food, including any fruit, vegetable, legume, nut, seed, whole grain, low mercury, and high omega-3 fatty acid seafood or lean animal protein used for the prevention, reversal, or treatment of certain health conditions. Medically supported food and nutrition interventions are encouraged but not required to utilize, to the extent possible, foods from small to medium-sized farms, beginning farmers, or farms owned or operated by socially disadvantaged producers that produce food using regenerative, organic, or other climate-smart practices. Medically supported food and nutrition interventions are, to the extent possible, provided by community-based organizations. And if someone else would like to continue reading, I would greatly appreciate that.
I'll pick it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're at B1. Quote,
B1.
B1, family, B1.
B1.
Quote, medically tailored meals, end quote, or MTM, means meals that adhere to standards informed by established nutrition guidelines for specific health conditions as available and are tailored to a recipient's health conditions by a registered dietitian, nutritionist, RDN. For purposes of this paragraph, a provider of MTM offers a quality individual at least 2 medically tailored home delivered meals or a portioned equivalent each day that meet at least 2/3 of the daily nutrient and energy needs of a person from the primary population served and offers the qualified individual medical nutrition therapy that is provided by a RDN. 2. Medically supportive meals means meals that follow the federal dietary guidelines for Americans and meet general health recommendations. 3. Food pharmacy means medically supportive food paired with additional nutrition support, typically in a healthcare setting. Medically tailored groceries, or MTG, means pre-selected medically supportive food that adheres to standards informed by established nutrition guidelines for specific health conditions as available and is tailored to a recipient's health condition by a RDN. For example, for purposes of this paragraph, a provider of MTG offers a qualified individual medically supportive food in sufficient quantity to make at least 2 meals or a portioned equivalent each day that meets at least 2/3 of the daily nutrient and energy needs of a person from the primary population served and offers the qualified individual medical nutrition therapy that is provided by an RDN. 5. Medically supportive grocery means pre-selected medically supportive foods that follow federal dietary guidelines for Americans and meets general health requirements. 6. Produce prescription means fruits and vegetables procured in retail settings such as grocery stores or farmers markets via a financial mechanism. 7. Nutrition supports include nutrition education, cooking education, and tools, including equipment and materials, and health coaching and behavioral support based on a recipient's medical condition. When paired with the interventions described in paragraph 1 through 6, nutrition supports are provided in either an individual or group setting. Section 3. Section 14134, period 1, is added to the Welfare and Instructions Code to read, A, effective July 1st, 2026, medically supportive food and nutrition interventions as defined in Section 14134 are covered if those interventions are determined to be medically necessary in treating a patient's medical condition by a healthcare provider or healthcare plan, subject to Section 14134.11, and utilization controls. B1. Medical beneficiaries in the fee-for-service or managed care delivery system shall be eligible for medically supportive food and nutrition interventions subject to this section and Section 14134.11. A Medi-Cal managed care plan shall offer at least 3 of the interventions listed in paragraph 1 through 6 of subdivision B of Section 14134. 2. In order to be covered under the Medi-Cal program, nutrition supports as defined in paragraph 7 of subdivision B of Section 14134 shall be paired with the provision of food through one of the other offered interventions under paragraphs 1 through 6 of subdivision B of Section 14134. 3. Interventions shall be provided for 12 weeks or longer if deemed medically necessary. C. The section shall not be implemented until Official guidance is finalized by the Department in consultation with the Medically Supportive Food and Nutrition Benefit Stakeholders Advisory Work Group established pursuant to Section 14134.12. D. Notwithstanding Chapter 3.5, commencing with Section 11340 of Part 1 of Division 3 of Title 2 of the Government Code, the Department, without taking any further regulatory action, may implement, interpret, or make specific this section by means of all county letters, plans, or provider bulletins or similar instructions until the time regulations are adopted. E. This section shall be implemented only to the extent that any necessary federal approvals are obtained and federal financial participation is available and not otherwise jeopardized. Section 4, Section 14134.11 is added to the Welfare and Institutions Code immediately following Section 14134.1 to read 14134.11a for purposes of coverage of medically supportive food and nutrition interventions as described in Section 14134.1. The Department shall define the qualifying medical conditions for those interventions, including chronic and other conditions that evidence shows are sensitive to changes in diet. The Department shall consult with medically supportive food and nutrition benefit stakeholders, advisory work group established pursuant to Section 14134.12 in the development of these qualifying medical conditions. And Ms. Darlene, could I have you pull up the rear here?
Yes. Okay, number B, a healthcare provider shall, to the extent possible, match the acuity of the patient's conditions to the intensity and duration of a covered medically supportive food and nutrition intervention, subject to the timeline restrictions under subdivision B of Section 14134.1. The healthcare provider shall, to the extent possible, include culturally appropriate foods. C. Nutrition supports, as described in paragraph 7 of subdivision B of section 14134, are encouraged to be included with the interventions offered to the patient under subdivision B, but shall not count towards the minimum intervention requirements as described in section B, subdivision B of section 14134.1. Section 5. Section 14134.12 is added to the Welfare and Institution Code immediately following Section 14134.11 to read 14134.412a for purposes of coverage of medically supportive food and nutrition interventions as described in Section 14134.1, the Department shall, or on before July 1, 2025, establish a medically supportive food and nutrition benefit stakeholder advisory work group to advise the Department in the development of official guidance related to eligible populations, the duration of dosage of those interventions, rate setting, the determination of permitted and preferred medically supportive food and nutrition providers, value-based procurement, and equitable sourcing of food, and continuing education for healthcare providers and other medically supportive food and nutrition providers. B. The work group shall represent both rural and urban geographical regions and shall, at a minimum, consist of stakeholders collectively representing all of the following. 1. Each of the seven medically supportive food and nutrition interventions described in Section 14134 with a different stakeholder per intervention. 2. Small to medium farm groups, beginning farmers or farms owned or operated by socially disadvantaged producers. 3. Healthcare providers or associations that primarily serve Medicare beneficiaries. 4. Medicare consumer advocacy organizations. 5. Researchers of medically supported food. C. The work group shall meet quarterly or more often as necessary. D. 1. The department shall provide 30 calendar days for work group convenient to convene pursuant to subdivision A to commit on guidance on the benefit design of the medically supported food and nutrition interventions before finalizing draft guidance for public comment. 2. The department shall provide an additional 60 calendar days for public comment on draft guidance before finalizing its official guidance. 3. The department shall issue final guidance on or before July 1, 2026.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That wonderful read. Yeah.
But not a wonderful bill.
I know, right? I mean, once again, I don't know where the lineage-based reparations comes.
Nowhere. When was this introduced? Is this the first introduction of this bill? And Darlene, does this coincide directly with any of the recommendations in the final report?
That I don't know. I didn't do my due diligence on this one. But they say they got everything from the recommendations from the
okay, maybe we'll
final report. But in section 1A, they do talk about well, even before that, California communities of color. Who was that? Section 1A, socially disadvantaged population. Who is that? And the thing, this bill, personally, myself, I would like to have seen it tailored to our descendant senior group. They could have definitely have used this. If it was tailored specifically to them, I would be really, really happy to see that. And it says, it's going to depend on what the RN determines, if you are in need. A registered dietitian nutritionist RDN. Well, we all know that there's racism in medicine. I mean, our seniors don't go because of the way that they feel that they're being treated. So again, how is this descendant based? It's not.
And then it is, let's see, I think it's mentioned somewhere here, culturally.
Yes.
Culturally
supported food.
Yeah, something like that. Cultural. I'm trying to find. Oh, here we go. Culturally appropriate foods. Now, what does that mean?
What does that mean? And is R as descendant food, is it on the federal medical list as what they deem is appropriate? I mean, again.
Yeah, I mean, what is culturally appropriate foods? I mean, that's so subjective. I mean, some people may think soul food is culturally appropriate, but then some of us descendants, we do appreciate our history with soul food, but some of us may not eat that type of food. I mean, who knows what we eat? So
you're gonna get some watermelon.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's healthy.
So culturally appropriate food, I mean, I don't know what the specificity in that can be. But yeah, this once again, just like the previous other bills that we've read outside, I believe the one that Senator Bradford, SB 1050, doesn't have any specific language for descendants. So.
And also the fact that they say communities of colors, and then also I don't know where it is in there, Umoya, but it does state about socially disadvantaged population, but they're targeting farmers and new farmers. Well, who are they? Can they target, number one, the descendant population, and do target descendant farmers? That would have strengthened this. And they don't say anything about that,
That's possible. Well, we have, we're approaching about 10 minutes more. Maybe we can go through one more bill. I know we have another one, but I think that in addition to the one we're going to read, but that's 9 pages, and maybe we could table that one for next week. That's fine. Um. All right. So let's see. Let's go to SB 1089. I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's
That is
1089.
up.
Yes.
Yes, SB 1089, Food and Justice, California Legislature, 2023 to 2024 regular session. Senate Bill number 1089, introduced by Senator Smallwood Cravers on February 12, 2024, an act relating to food and justice. Legislative Council Digest. SB 1089, as introduced, Smallwood Cravers, Food and Justice. Existing law provides for various food-related services and benefits, including the CalFresh program, under which supplemental nutrition assistance benefits allocated to the state by the federal government are distributed to eligible individuals by each county, and the Cal Food program, under which food and funding is provided to food banks, whose primary function is to facilitate the distribution of food to low-income households. This bill would state that it is inherent to the legislation to enact legislation addressing food injustice. Vote majority. Appropriation no. Fiscal committee no. Local programming no. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1. It is the intent of the legislature to enact legislation addressing food injustice. Come on.
What? Okay, we're gonna give Smallwood Cuevas some grace.
Why, Kim? She's senator. She's
relatively new. Maybe her legislation will get more sophisticated, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure what this does.
Well, when they talk about existing law provides for various foods-related services and benefits, including the CalFresh program, isn't the CalFresh program? It's the SNAP or the SNAP is different, but the food stamps, and you got to be really, really right under or right at their poverty level to get food stamps. So
pretty much,
and then it says distributed. We could just read the whole thing again because it's so short.
Yeah, maybe it'll sink in.
Yeah, distributed to eligible individuals by county in the CalFresh program. Well, they have the right to cut you off. Under which food and funding is provided to food banks whose primary function is to facilitate the distribution of food to low-income households. Nothing about descendant households at all. Low-income households.
Go back. I was reading that. The bill would state that it is the intent of the legislature to enact legislation addressing food. So this is just an intent bill anyway.
But I will say, Kim, I didn't do my due diligence on this one, but I will because it was just so short. But I will remember reading before the final report was released, something that task force member Cheryl Grills put out, and it was about food injustices and closing, talking about food deserts, and when you close a supermarket in a particular neighborhood, you have to give the people notice where you're still going to close it.
I remember that. Yeah.
So this smells similar to that. She probably just picked that out of that and placed it in this intent, as you say, of the legislation. So I mean, it just is. It's nothing, because it still leaves it up to the county. It doesn't,
right, and it's not
left up to the county
specific at all.
No, and it's already left up to the county.
Right. So I don't understand what's changing.
Nothing. just trying to throw something in what they call their 14 priority bills to pacifiers, but we would not be pacified.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Let's just let it all out. Let's let the cat out, out the bag, out, whatever the saying goes. Let's just keep it real. The elephant in the room. These are not reparations bills.
No.
At all.
Mhm.
And this is embarrassing. This is
Embarrassing.
really embarrassing. I just as a person who's on the outside looking in, and if any one of us would ever, go into legislation or become a legislator, and
It looks like we're
somebody,
gonna have
I
to.
know, right? And if somebody asked, "Hey, look, we're going to give you an assignment. Here's the criteria for reparations. Make sure that you equate or transfer what is considered reparations into legislation." And if somebody came to me, an assistant or somebody else, and said, "Hey, can you author this or co-author this?" I'd be like, "No."
Well,
This
it
No.
has
doesn't have
nothing to
any
do with
co-authors,
anything.
as you see. I mean,
Actually, you're right, Kim. Thank you. But I mean, and I think this is the thing, what the community is always talking about with politicians is like, you're not there, right? Or you shouldn't be there technically just to get stuff through. This isn't no time just to be getting stuff through, just to be getting stuff through.
right.
There's specific assignments that need to be had and taken place. And obviously, the bills that we've read today have nothing to do with lineage-based reparations at all.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
So I
No.
think we'll probably, I'm just going to share my screen here. We do have this one, AB 280, segregated confinement, which is introduced by Assembly members Holden, Bryan, Cowra, and Weber, etc. This is like a 9-pager, so let's probably hold off, say, until next week or week after, whatever, or the next show.
Yeah,
Question.
we'll get to this later. And
Yeah.
there's still the Gibson bill that we didn't do this time. So we've got a couple for next time.
Okay.
And were you going to go AB 3131? Were you going to go over that, or are you just going to go over the 14 priority bills?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely go over. I think some of the others that are reparations related, or that I think we believe are reparations related as well. Maybe we can go over that too. In addition, which aren't priority bills, obviously, but those are the ones that I believe predominantly Senator Bradford and maybe Holden. Can't remember off the top of my head what those are, but we'll definitely go with those as well.
Okay.
Sure. Before we get out of here, let's see what's in the comment. I know we got some comments. First of all, everyone, thank you for joining. We appreciate you. And for those that are going to be watching on the replay, we appreciate you as well. Where's my reparations check for slavery? End quote. Shout out to Professor D.
Yes.
In the building.
Cut my check.
Elon Musk is considered African American too. We need to drop that label. None of us are from Africa. We are foundational Black Americans, period. And African Americans are white too. I don't know if we can necessarily disagree with any of those. So
I can't disagree with Professor on that one. I mean, that's just how I feel about it, I mean, as far as, the cradle of civilization, we all know that's Africa, but that doesn't make you a Black descendant of U.S. chattel slavery. No.
Yeah.
No. Mm-mm.
So I think on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. If my co-hosts have anything else to say.
I mean, there's not much to say. I think you've summed it up. Maybe next week when we finalize this, we can do a recap on, which bills have any, resemblance of reparations.
But Kim, we could do the recap now. None of them.
I know, right?
It'll be short. It'll be short.
It'll be a short list, for real.
That's hilarious.
Except SB 1050.
Yeah.
Right, but it does need some language.
It needs some language. Yes. But that's the
Yes,
closest so
parentheses.
far. That's the
Yeah.
closest so far, though. It just needs some language. Mhm.
Absolutely.
All right. So there it
All right,
is.
fam. All right, fam. Well, thanks for everyone for joining. And as always, Darlene and Kim, I got to give y'all flowers. I mean,
Thank you.
we've
You
been
get yours too.
on this journey for quite some time, and
Mhm.
I appreciate y'all in this work. Because
Yes.
it's oftentimes a thankless endeavor and journey that we're doing. But I so appreciate you, because I wouldn't want to be with anybody else in this fight for reparations. And we're going to get reparations. This is
We are.
owed. It's due. The evidence is there, and we're Americans. We built this country. Our
Yes.
ancestors built it, and uh, we're going to see it through. And the previous generations are going to see it through. I think also we should do a show and just do another recap. I think we did one probably sometime last year about some of the reparations tropes and some of the quote unquote rebuttals. Just kind of do maybe rehash some of that stuff, because there's just a lot of misinformation out there, especially as we're going through these bills, that people are continuing to say. But yeah, maybe we'll pick that up at another time.
Mhm. Okay.
And
Thank you,
on that note,
everyone.
family, thank you. And on that note, as always, you guys have a wonderful weekend. And we will see y'all next time.
Next week.
Next time.
Peace and reparations.
Lady
SB
Faye.
490, introduced by Senator Stephen Bradford, is the first legislation that will create the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency.
The CAFA agency is a recommendation from the California Reparations Task Force final report.
Possible offices within the agency could include genealogy, strategic communications, data research collection,
as well as general counsel with social services and family affairs.
Tell your representative to support the upcoming 2024 reparations legislation.
Find them at findyourrep.legislature.ca.gov.